Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. We are out on the launch pad today with another Sheruiken. This one even more heavily updated than before, but mostly with thruster placement and axis assignment, but we'll get to complaining about how I botched that when it comes time for docking. Anyway, we are bringing a resupply of life support materials and a new bit of sciencey bits for our orbital station, so we'll just get that underway. So SAS is on, our relative inclination is down to 0.21. I guess we can actually let that slide a little further down. It should get down to almost 0. Not like we're going to come out of this with that kind of inclination. Anyway, Yegor is flying solo today because he is actually going to collect 2 scientists from our station and bring them back home in hopes that their experience up there will help them teach the other scientists about what to expect from doing science on the surface of the moon. Hopefully, perhaps, and maybe. So we're just going to let this relative inclination slide down a little further by use of time warp. Alright, physics is stabilizing. .03, I think that's well and close enough. So SAS is on, throttle is set to full, staging is way out of whack. Oh my goodness. There's our boosters. Where's our main engines? There they are. Whoa. This doesn't bode well. Okay, so let's get these down. Yeah, alright. I should have checked that beforehand. Ignition sequence start. We are lit and we are moving. Yegor is on his own. So let's hope his piloting skills have not gotten rusty. I don't know how long he's been not flying. Didn't he fly our last one? Or was that Valentina? Or Alice? Oh, I don't remember. Alright, I'm going to fly this tricky little bird to orbit, and I will pick all of you up there. So all the first stages of these launches are typically very predictable and very easy to control. Those boosters just keeping us right along the vector. Anyway, like it's really easy to fly right up until the second you separate the boosters, but I decided I was going to try something a little different this time. I have noticed in missions past that if you separate the boosters and then just don't touch the controls, it tends to just stay exactly where you left it. It doesn't deviate, doesn't swing around, doesn't go all cattywampus. So I was really hoping that if I could just dial in that prograde vector right before booster sep, and you see me angling way below the prograde vector now and getting about somewhere between 3 and 5 degrees above the horizon, and adjusting the throttle to kind of keep those boosters in use as long as I can. There's sep, and I just didn't touch the controls for a very long time here, and it actually worked. I'm not struggling with it. I'm not fighting against it. I'm actually not touching the keyboard at all, and we're just we're flying straight and true. Now, if I had just been a degree or 2 higher above the horizon, this might have been a fairly flawless approach right up until about the last minute, maybe minute and a half or so of our ascent, but I wasn't, and I needed to alter course because of that angle to prograde, or that time to apoapsis, sorry. And so I turned RCS on and fidgeted with it, although this was a lot easier to play with than it has been in missions past, probably because we have more RCS authority with the addition of our new thruster ports, and hopefully the better balancing of said thruster ports. So while it was still a little bit of a wrestling match, this was probably the easiest wrestling match with this Sheruiken I've had yet. So really, I think it's probably just going to be a case of repositioning the EFT either a meter higher or a meter lower on the mount, and then maybe we can get some just nice, easy, predictable flight out of this. Although any yaw or roll changes are still going to be a little weird. Now, the other thing I found is that using the integrated point to prograde control there on the side of the nav ball works really, really well. I actually didn't have to wrestle with it just by clicking that little circle there. It made things pretty easy. So once the prograde vector is dialed in and that's where we want to point, we can just use the autopilot to really take the fight out of this thing. And yes, this was me screwing it up a little bit because our orbit was going to be way not where I wanted it to be. Okay, 446 by 128. It's not too terrible. It does mean that hopefully we can deorbit our EFT without too many issues. 3,300 meters per second or so left in that tank. Where did all that go? Oh, I forgot to lock it. That was dumb. Well, good news is we can just top this off. That's for our fuel cells. We might not actually need to use the fuel cells, but I'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. We've experienced that once already. And it was, I mean, not tragic, but certainly not pleasant. All right, and let's, where's the liquid hydrogen? There's some. Actually, probably don't need that much liquid oxygen. We're going to end up venting a bunch of that. No big deal. We should top off the liquid hydrogen, however. Just because most of that's going to boil off anyway. We're going to be here in orbit for at least a week. I imagine it'll take us a day or two to rendezvous with our station. Maybe longer. But, you know, just so we got time to kill. Anyway, let's stage off the EFT. Fantastic. Turn RCS back on and pull ourselves gracefully away. Yeah, I mean, maybe the RCS is still balanced. I've swapped out many of the thrusters for these type of thrusters here, which should survive reentry a lot better. They also look a lot smoother, contributing to the overall beautification of this shuttle. Let's see if we can't pull ourselves forward a bit. We're going to have to light this AJ-10 to round up some orbits, or at least get us not in the atmosphere still. Anyway, we'll deploy our solar panels. There we go. And this is our new science package. It's just a bunch of experiments, most of which have already been run in low Earth orbit, but we can dump them into the lab and get even more science for them, including this mapping equipment. Of course, we won't be able to get complete maps of things, but we'll be able to get something, and science points will certainly be useful at some point. So, all right, let's start to plot our orbital something or other. Add maneuver. We just need to raise this up to get us out of the atmosphere, although if we can get a rendezvous out of it, that'd be neat. Does not look like it, but we will at least set ourselves on course for it. And well, you can thank the doggos for this little bit of sped up footage. It took them a little while to calm down, and I had some things I needed to get done. Alright, now that hopefully the dogs are done going crazy, we'll get into some time warping and move around to this node to round out our orbit a bunch. It is 84.4 meters per second. Not that tragic, really. But we are carrying quite a bit of food, water, and oxygen for our station. Oh, 4 minutes. Wow, I should have really thought about that a bit more. Oh, and you know what? Shut down, lock gimbal. Just shut down, lock gimbal. There we go. That should make things a little bit easier. Yeah, it says the burn's going to take 2 seconds, but that's figuring that we're going to fire those HG3s. We are not going to fire those HG3s. Our burn time is now down to a minute. Not that we need to be particularly accurate here. We just need to get our periapsis up to something a little more respectable, I suppose. Seem to be leaning to one side, and that's very interesting. Because there's nothing on this that should lean it to one side or the other. Well, that's going to make things very interesting. Which may in fact just have been all in my mind, because it really doesn't show up later at all. 450 by 406, so generally we have a higher orbit than our station. So it should be catching up to us. I should probably turn spacecraft on so I can see us. There we are. There it is. How much life support do we have here? 1 year. Oh yeah, because we're carrying a supply pod. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? We're gonna go ahead and disengage our RCS just to conserve the fuel. Now, how much? All right, I still need Rendezvous Planner open. 103 days, give or take. So we can afford to be here for quite some time. So let's just switch back out to, well, let's take a quick save in case the game goes all cattywampus on me. I think maybe this is actually off balance and that's what's causing it. So let's focus on Earth so we don't give ourselves a seizure. And rendezvous nodes are not moving. That's very interesting. So there's no way our orbits are synchronous. No. They're just moving very, very, very slowly. So in this nice bit of sped up footage, you can actually see it moving a lot more fluidly than what I did. But basically, instead of spending any delta V at all to make this encounter happen a whole lot sooner, I just opted instead to leave Yegor in orbit for 2 weeks all by himself in a space shuttle with a Cards Against Humanity deck. I'm sure he had fun, but he has been through a whole lot worse at the request of this space program. The man's a hero, what can I say? That looks plot worthy, 24 some odd kilometers. We'll just go ahead and try to tackle that. Actually, I wonder then, let's just let Mk4.5 do this. Match velocities. And that brings intercept 2 at 45 kilometers. Let's tune that a bit, shall we? And now the obligatory 35 seconds or so. That was actually about 10 minutes of me tinkering around with nodes, trying to get just the right approach vector and relative speed so as to really save on some fuel. I mean, I don't know. I guess at some point I should be trying to learn how to do this really efficiently because it, I don't know, seems legit or something. All right. 900 meters. I think we'll go for that. It's in 11 minutes. Let's fire our CS system back on. Oh, poor Yegor. We let him park up here for 2 weeks. All by himself. He did spend a year orbiting the moon, so I feel like he's probably the best candidate for this type of ordeal. Alright, there's our angle. It says the burn will take 10 seconds. It is 16.1 meters per second. So we'll just go ahead and warp on in a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Alright, 20 seconds out. Ullage. Okay, good. I would say I didn't see any thrusters firing, but I forgot. The only two that can provide ullage are now back here. The ignition seems to be holding stable. That's good. All right, and it says our closest approach is 1.2 kilometer. Let's see if we can't adjust that down. Nope. Nope. I will say this for the new thruster layout, a lot of the translational axes are pretty well balanced, which I really, really like. Good for me. All right, 400 meters, 451 meters, we'll take that. So now match velocities at closest approach, 27.9 meters per second in 37 minutes. That burn will take 17 seconds. And I have already discovered one very interesting flaw in our new thruster setup. I have no way of going in reverse. I have these two thrusters to push me forward with the H key, but if I were to hit the N key to try to back up, I think I got nothing. So let me show actuation tables for aft on. Do I have to do these individually or do they toggle in pairs? For aft on. These two are about the only ones that have the angle to do it. So I think they are our only choice for fore aft action. There we go. let's hope for the best. I do have a contract to radio some science from Earth orbit. We're just going to go ahead and do that now. Get the contract out of the way. Of course, the transmission's going to take a while. Can we move this down a little bit? There we can go. Ah, wow. Oh, come on. And of course, it's not going to give me the science. I mean, there was no science to be had, but it's not going to honor the contract, and that makes me very angry. All right, 35 minutes until we approach our station. So let's just go ahead and warp over to that and see if we can't get this, what is obviously going to be a very painful docking maneuver, done and out of the way. All right, we're 22 seconds from the burn. And I'm not angled in, but we are within render range. There's our station. Come on, rotate. Rotate. I should be firing the engine right about now, actually. We'll just go ahead and light it up. Hold your node, son. What? Come on, bring it back. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. The node is walking away from us rather quickly. Much like the station. Alright, we're just going to shut down. And try to do this with our RCS thrusters. Yeah, I did have SAS on. That's interesting. Alright, well, now that we're properly angled in and we could actually zero out this velocity, maybe I should just light that AJ-10 again. Because this is taking forever. Forgot I only have 2 thrusters that toggle in this direction now, and not like all the thrusters leaning down the side of the spacecraft. So this is obviously going to take a lot more of holding down the key, so we'll just do this the easy way. There we go, and now we are approaching the station, albeit very, very slowly. So we'll just try to... Nope, I misread that entirely. We are moving away from the station still at 0.3 meters per second. We're zeroed out. You know what? There we go. 2 meters per second. And that brings our closest approach to 124 meters in 5 minutes. Let's take a quick save because I'm going to see if this time warpy thing still goes all crazy like. Yes, it does. That's super interesting. Let's turn the RCS off so we don't go redirecting ourselves. Just drifting off wildly. Yeah, that's super fun and interesting. Yeah, I'll use the fuel to get it done faster. And thankfully I've sped all this up in post because it's still doing the weird thing where the station moves around if you hit the time warpy stuff. So I really just kind of sat here. I haven't done this from the live, or I haven't done one of these since the live stream, and not having chat here to keep me entertained was definitely very different and somewhat lacking. I was bored and I'm sad because I miss all of you. There, I said it. Anyway, we're going to start figuring out our approach. Now, based on our angle with the station, all we really had to do was rotate ourselves about 90 degrees, and that puts us on line to hit the docking ports. How convenient. Alright, well, we're going to need a way to stop, and even with those actuation toggles moved around, yeah, you can see hitting the N key doesn't do us a whole lot of good. It's firing the thrusters on our science package, not having much of a result as far as what is going to slow us down. Oh, they are having some impact. And maybe over the course of the next 52 seconds or so, they will. Although I do worry what this means for docking in general. Alright, we've got our appropriate docking port targeted. Maybe I will just hold down this key. We're already down to 1.3 meters per second. Man, this feels super cheaty. We're going to have to reallocate some thrust replacement. That is absolutely a for certain. Down to 0.8. That's not bad. Not really bad at all, but again, we're going to have to redo the thrusters on this thing, or at least just add something that will give us some aft capability. Now, again, I just kind of let all of this happen while I was trying to bring myself in line with the docking port. I'm not really interested in the shuttle's orientation versus the station, other than that those two docking ports are facing each other. But our approach on this was actually fairly spot on, other than that 90-degree rotation and what's going to have to be some pitch up a little bit to bring their axes in line. We were actually lucked out a whole lot on this approach. This was probably the easiest approach we've ever had bringing one of these shuttles to the station. I've never really seen it just kind of glide together so well. Not to jinx it or anything, or to ruin the surprise, I guess. I don't know. You guys be the judge. Am I getting better at this? I really hope so. How are we looking here? Dude, that is not bad. Maybe a touch fast, but okay. I'm going to jinx it now, just to be clear. Yep. How are we looking? Oh, way off. At least it's the direction in which we have authority. Come on. Come on, Doc. Yay! Docked! Awesome. That was delightfully smooth. I mean, a little touch and go-y there at the end, but I think I'm getting a lot better at this. Booyah! Right, so we have a couple of things to do here in orbit. We brought up some KAS tools so we can move some of these struts around to our HAB module and kind of secure it in place. We're going to remove this science payload, attach this science payload, port over the life support, which I guess I can do the life support thing now. Is this our big life support tank? Yep. So we'll just go in. Oh, sorry. Out. 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 We want to refuel the station, not take stuff from it. So that should buy them a couple more 100 more days in orbit, which is fine. We're not topping them off or anything. Do we have any research? Nope, we radioed it all in. We've got 0.938 science here in this thing, which I don't know if I want to radio in or not, because I'm not sure if it's gonna. It's less than 1 science, dude. Transmit it. Just see what happens. Transmit science. Not enough useful findings. Well, that's certainly very interesting. Anyway, so we will get to moving around our cargo-y bits and doing all of our other. You know what? We can, while I'm thinking about it, we can just dump some of this stuff into the pod or into the shuttle and take it with us. Especially since we're deorbiting this thing, we don't need it anymore. Ooh, review data. Hey, 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 look at that, 1.7 science. We're actually going to get some information back here. Collect solar particles. Transmit. Sure, why not? Let's see what happens here. Get rid of you. Of course, it's going to take 1 billion years, just as I'm trying to be done with it all. I need to see what happens is really the core of this. So that has 42 liters of fuel. I don't know if that's going to be enough to push it to deorbit on its own, and I'm wondering if it was a little off balance. So maybe we'll try to dock it in the shuttle. Yeah. Oh, 16 data received, done. Did not award me the contract, but it received the data. That's very interesting. That is very interesting indeed. All right, well, we will get to the logistics part of this mission next time. So thank you very much for hanging out, everybody. I really do appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.